Okay then, welcome back to Migmatis Golf everybody. Today we got something a little bit different. Now, if you're like me and you've just gotten over or you've just passed the 40-year-old mark and you've lost a little bit of distance on the golf course, especially with your driver off the tee, then you might want to look into doing what I'm about to do. You might want to build yourself an old man's driver. Now, what do I mean by old man's driver? I mean, not necessarily a driver with like a senior flex shaft in it or something like that, but a driver with a lighter shaft, possibly all the way down to like a regular kind of stiffness in it. But light shaft so that you feel the head a bit more and the head will pick up a bit more speed without necessarily losing loads of accuracy, not necessarily having massive dispersion. So you might want to try this. Now this was all spurred on by a friend of mine who has just taken up golf, and it's quite a funny story. One of his first rounds out with me, he snapped the driver shaft, so a brand new beautiful driver that his other half had gifted him, and I don't know what hole we were on, but it recoiled off his shoulder and it snapped. And being a new golfer, he just kind of took the shaft, broke it in two, and then went to put the whole of the driver in the garbage can by the tee box. And we were, myself and the other buddy were like, whoa, what you doing, mate? There's like perfectly good head on that. Not to mention the adapter and all that, Callaway driver. And he was like, oh, really? This is reusable? We're like, yeah. Anyway, cut a long story short, his missus actually went and bought him the latest all singing and all dancing driver. So he was kind enough to give me this driver head. And here it is. This is the Callaway Rogue ST Max. All right, so it's not that old. Beautiful adjustable head driver. And this is a 10.5 degree. Now, that's important. Why? Because if you're building a driver to regain a bit more speed, yes, you want it lighter, but also you might actually need a bit more loft. Okay? Everybody goes to the golf store, they all buy themselves a 9.5 stiff shafted driver thinking, yep, I'm bog standard. But quite often they're wrong. Quite often every amateur needs more loft. So the reason I decided to use this head was, one, it was freebie. And two, it starts at 10.5 degree and it can be dropped by a couple or increased by a couple of degrees of loft with the Callaway adapter. So we're going to build this driver with this head, with this new adapter that I got off the Tinternet. This is an OEM part, genuine part, and I think it was $19.99. You can buy knockoffs of this that I've heard work perfectly well. I've seen them on eBay for like 10 bucks. So you could buy one for 10 bucks. I decided to go with the real McCoy because I like that. And then I picked myself up just a bog standard golf grip gray one that I like. This is a Golf Pride, is it? Yeah, Golf Pride MCC Plus 4. Love these, so I'll be using that. And then, last but not least, the star of the show is the shaft. And I bought this puppy here. Now, this is not a new shaft. This shaft is quite old now, quite a few years old. This is a brand new one off the internet, only $40. But after doing my research, this is a regular stiffness, 45 gram shaft. Let's try not and kill anybody with this. It's a Mitsubishi, and it is an NVS. Yeah, NVS. Adilla. What does it say down here? NXT, Next Gen MLT, whatever that means. But I kind of trawled the forums, did a bit of research, and I found out that this is a very light shaft that doesn't torque too much, so the dispersion stays tight, and it's a quality shaft. It's a few years old, so it's at a discount. So I'm going to be putting this puppy in. It's a nice browny orange, whatever you want to call that, to complement the colors on the Rogue ST Max. So we're going to build this. We're going to do it really quickly. It might speed it up because I don't want to bore you with this, but and after that we will test it out and see if I'm getting a little bit more pop with this bad boy. So first things first, we get the adapter, and the adapter is going to slip over the end of the shaft like that and get epoxied in there. But we need to roughen up the inside of this adapter and clean it out. Sometimes these have a little bit of kind of debris in there, or it's a bit oily and greasy in there. So we're going to get ourselves some sandpaper. We're going to roll it up tight. I might have to tear this because, yeah, I'm going to have to tear this because that's not going to go in there. So roll the sandpaper up so the end of it will fit inside the adapter. Come sissy. And then we'll stick it in there, and then we'll just go round and round and round to get the inside of that adapter nice and what do they call it in the painting world? Keyed. A nice key on it so that the glue or the epoxy will stick to it nicely. So don't be shy, give it a good go with some 80 grit sandpaper or something like that. You're not gonna wear away any of the metal. You're just gonna create a nice roughed up surface for your epoxy. Okay, once that's cleaned out, tap any of the shavings out of there, and then I've got some acetone here, just in a little cup, and you're just gonna get a cotton bud, dab it in there, and let's just clean that out so we don't have any greasy spots or any residue left in there. And like you can see, that's a bit black on the end there, so it was a bit dirty. And that's that guy done. The little ferrule or whatever they call this thing, pop that back on and put that to one side. Now actually we still need it. We're going to prep the shaft. Now what you want to do, make sure your ferrule or whatever they call it is on there, on the end of the adapter. If it has one integrated, fine. We're going to pop the shaft in the end, and then we're going to mark on the shaft. I've got a red Sharpie here, red on orange. That's not too bright, is it, Migmatis? And that's going to tell us where we need to prep the shaft to. There's two ways of prepping the shaft. You can either sand back the paint. What you're trying to achieve, I should start with that, is you're trying to get the layer of paint off the graphite shaft down to the bare graphite, give you a better bond with the epoxy. So there's two ways of doing that. You can use your sandpaper to kind of go around, sand it off, or you can use a utility knife and you can scrape away. So if you take the blade, roughly go about 1/8 of an inch below your mark, so you get a pro looking job, and then kind of scrape away down the shaft like this repeatedly. That will just scrape the clear coat and that paint off until you get to the desired bare shaft. Okay, quite a while later, we've scraped all of the paint off. I think you can see there. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it does have to have most of paint off. And then once again, I'm going to grab a bit of acetone and we're going to clean off any residue on the shaft where I have been wiping. You can see it's quite dirty. There we go. So that is now prepped as well. So these two guys can go to the side, and it's time to mix up some epoxy. Now, I have this epoxy, shafting epoxy from Club Maker, and I got this from, I think it was from Golfsmith in California years ago, and I'm not 100% sure. These have been stored room temperature, and I've been told they'll be fine, but golf club epoxy is designed to be very strong, but also stay slightly flexible, which not many people know. So if you try and use some other type of epoxy that dries really hard and brittle, then as soon as you hit a couple of drives, it's just going to crack. So please do use proper golf shafting epoxy. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up a batch of this stuff and I'm going to leave it to the side for a few hours, and then we're going to see if it actually cures to a nice kind of solid yet flexible consistency before I use it on this golf club. Right, there it is, a little bit of epoxy mixed up. I have spread it out a bit because once it sets, I want to try and bend this cardboard and make sure that it's slightly flexible and I don't get cracks in it. And then we'll know that these two, this epoxy, the shafting epoxy here worked just fine, and we can use it on this guy here. So we're going to have to wait a bit and we'll come back. Anybody interested in the exact specs? This was the sticker that was on the shaft. So NXT Gen NVS 45R, Mitsubishi Chemical. There's the barcode with a barcode number. And a SKU or a QR code. And that is for this shaft here. All right, here we go. It's the next day. Here is my epoxy, my shafting epoxy that is on the cardboard, and I told you if I could bend this without it cracking, you can see that, then it's still good. And this one still looks good, so we're going to be able to use it. Next step then is epoxying the adapter onto the shaft. All right, so it's very simple. First things first, we'll slip the ferrule, whatever you call this thing, we'll slip this over the shaft, and then we'll do a dry fit. We're going to put this shaft all the way in like that, and it's seated right at the bottom. Make sure that fits. And so now we're going to mix up another batch of epoxy. You don't need that much. You don't want to make a complete mess everywhere, so nice pea size of hardener and a nice pea size of the resin. Equal parts. And we'll mix it all up. There you go. Mix it really well. You really don't want any part of your epoxy that isn't fully mixed. If the resin doesn't get completely mixed up with the hardener, then you could end up with a failure. So mix it really well. And then when you think you've got it all mixed, mix it some more. Okay, that should do. Now what we're going to do is we are going to put it inside the shaft, a thin coat all the way around the walls. Now I'm going to use a cotton bud for that without the cotton on the end. So remove the cotton from the end of the cotton bud. You can use anything, you can use literally anything you want. Little toothpick would do, little piece of wood, whatever you want to do. So there we go. Let's grab not too much and let's start coating the inside wall nice and evenly with a nice thin coat of epoxy. And don't worry too much because we're going to put some on the shaft as well. Okay, when you think you've got it nice and coated, put that to one side, grab the shaft, and we're going to light coat all the way up to that mark we created at the beginning where the paint is removed from the shaft. There we go. Now that's done, we're going to, one last thing, as you can see at the end here of the ferrule, there is just a little lip which glues into the end of the adapter. So we need to put a little bit of epoxy on that. And don't worry if you're a little bit messy because we're going to clean it all up afterwards. So adapter into the shaft, tap, 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 make sure it's seated completely. And then we're going to move this little ferrule bit down onto the adapter like that. Now, before you let this set, we're going to give it a twist like that and make sure the epoxy is coated all on the inside. But also we're going to line up the shaft where we think, so where you think your optimum setting is going to be. For me, my optimum setting, if I just grab the head, I hit a pretty straight ball. I don't need really any draw bias or anything. So if this little white mark on the adapter is the datum, then I am going to set straight and neutral don't know if you can see that, straight and neutral. So the S in the end lined up with that. And if I put the head on, there's also a little white line on that, and that head wants to line up with all the other marks. So that's all lined up. So now I just want to twist the shaft to place the logos where I want them at address. So if I look at that face straight up and down, there we go. That's where I want everything. Now, obviously, we haven't been the cleanest person in the world, so we're going to get ourselves a bit of acetone and we're going to clean up the overflow of epoxy. Hopefully, if you've been reasonably tidy, then you won't have too much of this to do. Okay, try not to let any acetone trickle down into the end where you put the epoxy in the shaft, because that's going to mess up the epoxy. Right, that all looks nice and clean. Just dry off it, any extra, and we're going to let that dry with the weight of the shaft sitting like this. So you're going to put the adapter on the ground, let the weight of the shaft press into it like that. So I'm going to pop that in the corner. Hopefully by tomorrow, give it 24 hours, that will be nice and dry, and then we'll get on to doing the grip, and we'll almost be ready for this old man's driver. See you tomorrow. All right, there she is, all done. Grip's on. I was gonna include this as part of the video, how to put this grip on, but there are 1 gazillion videos online of how to do that, so video is long enough already. So the grandpa driver, this thing has a very light shaft in it, regular flex, but just very light, 45 grams, and a head that can be adjusted from 10.5 to 12.5 degrees, and a little draw bias on that if you want to as well. All in all, I think the shaft was only 45 bucks, grip was like 10, and of course got the head for free. The Callaway adapter, 10 bucks as well. So lucky me. Thanks again to my buddy Asaf for giving me the head. And I'll do a little review of this puppy on the course or at the driving range and see how she flies. Look what I got. Yeah, boy. If you've been watching the channel, you remember I did a poor man's gem training aid. They got a lot of views and a lot of people built it. But my very good friend Chat actually played a round of golf with the owner and the inventor of this. Apparently he's a lovely guy. So I am going to actually make a video of this thing up against my knockoff and see if I got it even remotely close. So stay tuned for that video. All right, if you like this, please subscribe, leave some comments, hit the bell, all that good stuff. See you again soon with another one. Bye.